You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the capitalist corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the capitalist corner.
Folks, where reason meets reality, welcome to one of the few places, I think, on YouTube where reason does meet reality, the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, also the chair of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, Michael Liebowitz, who has his own show, which should be spreading like a virus across the United States and even the world, Michael. It's called The Rational Egoist. Talk to me about this show.
We got a great episode out right now with Catherine Dickerson on the benevolence of reason. Highly recommend it. Check it out. But also, you got to tune in on this very channel at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time today. Every day, ethics. We've been having a great time over there. It's wonderful. Everything's going well.
Now, does this show compete with Self-Made Soul in any way?
Dude, like, what is happening right now?
This is the show that Michael and I do on Saturdays. Where
how would it compete with Self-Made Soul? Like, what? Where does this come from?
Are you drawing off people? In other words,
I couldn't. They're not on at the same time.
It doesn't matter that they're not on at the same time. What I'm saying is, people.
I talk about different subjects.
People would prefer to watch you and James.
It's just me. It's just me.
Oh, just you. Oh, okay, so
yeah.
James isn't there.
No, James is not there. So I'm glad that you know. Thanks for checking out my.
That would be a draw.
Thanks for checking out the first 3 episodes. But also, it's totally different than Self-Made Soul. It's everyday applications, practical ethics.
I love that. I think it's what people need. I think it's fantastic that you're doing this show, and
everybody needs it except for Mark because he doesn't check it out. It's my book all over again. This is going to be my whole life going forward.
Which I finally read your book and enjoyed your book very much. So I will eventually get to your show and watch every episode. That's going to be the case.
Okay. Tell them about we got Self-Made Soul tomorrow, bro.
Yes, we have Self-Made Soul tomorrow. We're going to be talking about values and competing values, folks, and what one does when you have values that seem to be in opposition with each other. What do you do about it? Well, I think a lot of us have been in this position before, so I think it's going to be a very valuable show. So tune in 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern time, and watch the magic unfold, my friend. And before I go on with our news for the day and Q&A Friday, I do have to do our typical disclaimer. We are not representing the views of the American Capitalist Party. If you want to know what those are, please go to AmericanCapitalistParty.org, donate, and be a part of the change. Thank you, Jenna Kleem. I don't know how to pronounce that. Kleem. Thank you very much for the $10 super fucking chat. Don't be a dick. Now, what is that all about?
I've started a trend. This has got to be a thing. People need to stop being dicks. Like, I made a post on X today and this guy just comes in and just a dick. And I told him, just don't be a dick. Right. That's it. You don't have to be a dick. Michael, you can disagree without being a dick.
I agree. Yes. Thank you, Persephone. I did share it, I think, on X. So I think I did the right thing, but I am boomer adjacent. So it's
this right here. You shared this?
I believe I did.
All right, let me go see. I'll check it out.
While you're watching that, I do have to say that I have been having exchanges with Stephen Kinsella, who everybody should know is a crazy anarchist. Stefan, whatever. He's also extremely rude to almost everybody. But when I threatened him, I threatened him, Michael. I said, you and I run around in the same circles. Eventually, I will see you. When that happens, let's see how you talk to me. Ever since that time, Michael, he has talked to me very politely.
I wish you wouldn't do that.
I know. I wish I wouldn't either. But listen, what I'm trying to say is it changed the discourse entirely.
Okay. Let me see what's happening here.
I can see it right now. I can see myself talking on X live, and it's a retweet. So I don't know.
You retweeted YouTube. You have not retweeted from X, dude.
There's going to be a new "Don't Be a Dick" shirt on Capitalist Corner merch. So that would be great. So I have to, if this is the case, Michael, if this is the new, I don't know, this is the new moral standard, I have to conform to it as well.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Whenever I run across a Stefan Kinsella, I can't say I'm going to choke you if you ask.
No, it also puts me in a bad situation, by the way, just so you know.
Puts you in a bad situation?
Yeah. Can you go to my page? It's
there
at
it is.
the very,
I'm on your page. There it is. There it is. I just did it. Now that's the right way. So I don't understand how it puts you in a bad place, Michael.
Because I know that you are a person of fantastic character and you're a good friend of mine. So if somebody attacks your character, I'm going to defend you. But if they're attacking you, telling people you're going to smack the shit out of them, it just makes it a little bit more difficult.
Can I just tell you, I realized that I was talking into a mic that was not plugged in.
That could be the name. That oh my God, that could be your biography.
That's the title of my biography.
Yeah, talking to a mic that's not plugged in. The life and times of Mark Pellegrino
and Liebowitz, since it is a mic, so I could be
oh
talking
my God,
to Michael Liebowitz plugged in.
Dad joke.
Not plugged in. Hey, wait, we have a question from I think here from might be from Robert. So Persephone writes, is saying that you have reasons for loving someone the same as saying your love is conditional? If so, what about your young children? This is theoretical. Please do not tell your children that your love for them is conditional. Michael, what do you think about this? I have some thoughts about it, but I'd like to hear yours first.
I actually, how do I put it? I agree with Leonard Peikoff's stance on this. Leonard Peikoff says that the only times you can love unconditionally are young children and pets. And I think that that's accurate. I think that, and even in the case of pets, if I love this thing, a dog, and it's attacking me, that love's going to go away. So I think even that probably has some conditions. But when it's a young child that you've brought into the world, there's a biological drive to love the child. There's also the fact that you're responsible for it, given that you brought it into the world. So I think unconditional love for a child is perfectly moral and perfectly okay. Now, if you've got a 25-year-old child who's a heroin addict, who's stealing from you, who's staying in your house, banging hookers, and they're robbing you and everything else, you might want to rethink your stance toward that kid.
Yeah, so I agree. Presuming the dog is, of course, benevolent, and most dogs are the result of their owners. Their personalities conform to pretty much where they are. And if you're a benevolent person, your dog is going to be relatively benevolent. So, yes, dogs deserve unconditional love, and small children, babies, to the age at which they start becoming responsible for their own behavior and understanding the consequences of their own actions. Of course, if they become super problematic, then I think the love has to be conditional. You as a parent, after all, are teaching them values that will hopefully make them intellectually and morally independent in the world and capable of dealing with the world, which means that you have to set down certain standards for them, which they can either reject or not, and often, and that can lead to conditions for love being surpassed by the child. So certainly at a certain point, love becomes conditional for your kids. Definitely. Is value the same as worth? No, I don't think so, Michael. But if we're just simply talking in terms, economic terms, I don't think that's necessarily.
Yeah, I need to know exactly what you mean. If you're saying moral value, I would say yes. It's a value morally is something worth pursuing. So in that sense, I would say yes. I don't, value is not the same as monetary worth, if that's the question.
Yeah, I'm assuming she's sort of mixing subjective with objective here, because I think that you can apply worth is certainly a subjective concept, right? I mean, it depends on a person's individual context, and that's what makes the value a value to them or a non-value.
You're going to take this so far beyond the scope of the discussion, but I actually wrote about this pretty extensively in my book, View from a Cage. And in economic terms, it is the subjective valuations that people have of products that leads to prices. However, we can subjectively value things that are bad for us and hence are actually a disvalue. But value is not subjective. The thing is either good for you or it's not.
Correct.
That's
But in this case, there's the reason I said no is because there could be they're not necessarily, one is not necessarily representative of something.
There are. Well, I would be prepared to debate the proposition that for any given adult individual, that whatever that person does, either it has objective value or is not good for them.
Okay.
In the entire context, when you broaden the entire context of that person's likes, dislikes, health, physical makeup, whatever, that's the argument that I would make. But that's a very complex topic. When that would be great to get into, and I know Persephone is going to smile, on one of our weekend chats.
Yes, I think that would be great. As a matter of fact, yeah, we do weekend chats, folks, where Michael and I have some disagreements or some variance of opinion, and so we hash it out with each other. Usually I win, and everybody who watches tends to be on my side, and we're
look at the face. I brought her right up, that way no one thinks I'm lying.
heckling Michael by the end of the conversation. But yeah, they're very interesting, so you should join us. They're usually Saturdays right after our show. So, hey, here's another question, Michael. Have you read the book We Need to Talk About Kevin? It was also a movie.
That movie was awful. I watched that movie.
Tilda Swinton was in it. By the way, who's one of the 200 celebrities who's trying to get Marwan Baghdadi, the murdering terrorist, out of prison. Yeah, it's not a great movie.
No, it wasn't, and it was weird. And the kid with the bow and arrow and everything. I didn't like it. But where are you seeing that? I don't know where you're seeing that. That's all. I don't.
Stephanie posted it in the private chat. Now, do you believe that?
But that's way down. You got to go up. You're skipping everybody.
Hold on. Do you believe that a kid can be bad from the start? Like it's a genetic input. There's nothing there's no nature involved in it, no nurture involved in it. It's all nature.
Is it possible? Sure. I'm not going to say it's not possible, but I think it would be exceedingly rare, in the same way that I think a dog might just be bad, but it's exceedingly rare. But you got to go back to the top, because you're skipping over everybody, and it's not nice.
Okay, wait. Well, so I see Akira Felix here, so I do want to address Akira Felix.
No, you don't, because Persephone... on Fridays, people actually go to the website and they ask questions and whatnot. And Persephone,
all right, so why don't you deal with what the order is, and since I'm going out of order.
What do you mean? How you can't figure out what the order is?
No, I feel like I'm dealing with them all properly. You see that I'm doing it wrong.
No, you just scroll to the top. Look, the first question.
Yes, I already answered the first question, bro.
Okay, then what's the next question after the top one?
Have either of you watched The Good Place?
No, you got to go to the top.
I'm at the top.
You're not, because the top
is saying, have you reasons for loving somebody? That was our whether or
the
not
top. No, Mark. The top question is Jenna Kleem asking, is value the same as worth?
No, that's not my top. That's your top. My top.
It's in the private chat, Mark. It doesn't switch up.
I'm in the private chat. My private. Yeah. You want me to take a picture of it for you?
I want you to scroll to the top.
I'm scrolled at the top, and that was the very first question we asked, was about conditional.
What's the first question in the chat, Mark?
That's the question. Now, you want me to take a photograph and send it?
Yes,
to you?
I do. Yeah, okay. I do.
All right. So
I want you to show that to me in juxtaposition with Jenna Kleem's question about value. And while you're finding that and trying to figure out how to take pictures, Nicole Hingle says states are refusing to give federal government info regarding SNAP benefit recipients. The program is funded with federal dollars. The transparency shouldn't be optional when taxpayers foot the bill. Do you agree or disagree? I think the whole goddamn thing is unconstitutional and should be thrown out the window. I don't care how transparent it is. And it's also theft, predicated on theft.
I couldn't agree more. The whole damn thing is a grift, and the whole damn thing needs to be gotten away. And Michael, what you're going to do after you see these photographs is apologize publicly to me in front of everybody.
I'm not.
Preferably on your knees. So the first.
Oh, you sent them to me?
Yeah. So the first picture is at the top of the feed. Whereas Jenna's question is in the middle of the feed for me. Right before Ian Gilmore's question, have you ever read the book We Need to Talk About Kevin? So by my standard, I was going exactly in order, Michael. You can apologize now.
I'm not, because I wanted to. This photograph does not have the juxtaposition with Jenna Kleem's question.
It can't, because I have to scroll far down the feed in order to.
Okay, I want you to show me. Okay, so are you saying that Jenna Kleem is on the bottom in yours?
What I'll do is I'll do a video. Yes, I'll do a video for you. Here you go.
I think I know what it is. I think yours is just backwards, which all that means is you just go to the bottom then, Mark.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to do a video for you. All right, hold on. And video, there's the first question. We just keep scroll.
Oh, wait a second. Persephone actually posted Jenna Kleem's question twice. One was at 11:54 a.m., which would be 8:54 a.m. for you, and the other one was at 12:09. So you're going to go on your screen and find Jenna Kleem. Persephone posted it at 11:54 a.m. That's what you have to find. Okay, next question. That was by Robert.
I just sent you a video feed, so you see that there's.
I've never watched The Good Place, Persephone. I've never seen it.
I heard it's good. I like.
Mark likes to confront bullies a little too much. That's why he had the Guardian Project. What happened to that? I don't know.
Okay, so Akira, you should know now that I do not confront bullies anymore. I've given it up, and so far I've been sticking with it. I know I've said it in the past, and then a bully gets under my skin. Now I just mute them or block them. I don't even deal with them anymore, because they're just really trying to get my dander up. They're not really trying to have a civil conversation. And I've discovered that punching them in the face virtually does absolutely nothing in reality except draw them out more.
Yeah. Okay.
Grows out more. Hold on. The Guardian Project, however, was a documentary that we were doing on internet bullying. We've gotten a bunch of interviews in the can, but we ran out of funds to start to compile the actual documentary. So we have about 40 or 50 interviews and a plot line that's all been figured out for it. And then my partner in the project somehow just disappeared. Not the guy who was co-directing it with me. We're still together as producing partners and work together on tons of projects. But my actual partner in the Guardian Project, who's very, very left wing. He and I would go on news shows together to promote the Guardian Project. He would say words were violence, and I would actually have to say that's not true. Words are not violence. I don't believe that. I mean, I'd have to contradict him online. He's a lawyer out of Ohio. And so I think he felt like my political ideology is just not in alignment with his, and just decided to do what millennials do and ghost me. Every once in a while, he rears his head when he sees something happening with the Guardian Project, because we're still working on it. And whenever he sees that progressing, he like pops his head up, because if there's money to be made potentially in this thing, which we're not doing it for that, but if there's money to be made, he wants to be accredited for it. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, Drew, it's not slander. I'm not slandering you. This is just my opinion, my friend. Anyway, so that's what's happening. Guardian Project is still in process at the moment, and hopefully we get a chance to actually complete it. And I wrote a whole position paper on what we should do about bullying, internet bullying, that I thought was pretty good. It used to be on the Guardian Project website, which I'm not even sure exists anymore, because my former partner did not want to continue supporting it. There you have it. I also wrote an article for Rolling Stone, which I thought was pretty good. So if you can look Rolling Stone up online, you can find my article for the Guardian Project in there.
All right. So I got a couple things to tell you. First, Jim Valiant says that which one of us is on top and which one of us is on bottom is not a general concern to the audience.
You would go there. I don't even believe Jim said that.
Oh, he said it. It's in the chat. It's if you knew how to navigate the chat. Jim says innate and evil is impossible. I happen to agree with that. That doesn't, however, mean that somebody can't be born.
Explain that, though, Michael.
Well,
people who are not objective.
It's a technical point about morality, is that morality deals with that which is chosen. So if somebody automatically is doing things that are bad, then they wouldn't be they wouldn't be immoral, they wouldn't be evil. But I take your question when you asked it to be, can a person come into this world and just have a screw loose that ultimately leads them to do things which the majority of people would consider evil? And that I think probably, but Jim is correct that it would not be moral. Laura and Tori are listening. Hi, Laura and Tori. So I want to back up just a little bit. Ian Gilmore says Ian Gilmore hints. He says the after show question of the day should be, do you like the shtick where the hosts argue about stuff? The problem, Ian, is it's not a shtick. We just argue about stuff. So I don't know. If you don't want to.
It's not, look, whatever happens on this show is organic. It's not planned beforehand. Even though Michael has said, look, we get more views when we fight. We don't deliberately fight to get more views. What we share are principles, and we don't we're not dancing bears, and we're not going to dance around to get likes and clicks. That's for the Dave Smiths of the world, not for us. Yeah. We argue when we sincerely disagree about something, and you can tell it's sincere, even though it's in good fun, and we're having a good time while arguing.
But we also have a thing where we communicate in real time about the show. And like Mark sent me this video that proved that I was right, because everything in his feed is in the same order as mine. He's looking at the wrong time because Persephone posted it twice. So but what I don't know, like, what are we supposed to do when we're trying to communicate about where the thing is in the chat and one of us doesn't understand?
Okay, so I don't see it two postings, Michael, but we're not going to continue to fight about this because it's boring. Okay, so
so can I
video does not show two postings with two different times.
No, that's not what I just said. You only showed me a limited video. You did not show me the entire scroll from top to bottom.
I showed you my feed from the feed that I have from top to bottom. Okay, so look, let's get to the next article, since there aren't any questions, unless you know of questions that I'm not getting in the private chat. Reason Magazine wrote.
Well, hold on. I want to talk about something else first.
Okay.
Wait a second here. No, Mark, that is the studio chat that you're looking at, where that is the first question. That's not the private chat. I have it right here. It says studio. Oh, no, it says private chat. All right, whatever. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, I guess.
When is the apology coming, Michael?
For that right there, it is. But none of that. I watched this debate last night.
Felix, by the way, said he loved Monday show because they were going at it. Was I in Monday show? I wasn't in Monday show. Was I? Was that you and James?
No, you were here, I think. What? I don't know. Listen, we're not going to make me. I'm confused as much as enough as it is. The bottom line is we are allowing super chats at this point. We have super chats, and
we don't have super chats. We have super fucking chats.
Okay. Robert has a great question, but I just want to say something that a pet peeve that I have. So last night I'm watching this debate between this guy, Liquid Zulu, and Dave Smith. Liquid Zulu claims to be an objectivist, but he's an open objectivist who, what's the word I'm looking for here? He's an anarchist. So he calls himself an anarcho-objectivist, which is a non sequitur. He's not an objectivist. If anything, he's a rationalist. Dave, who doesn't know anything about objectivism, in this debate, he proceeds to say things about objectivism that are not true. The other guy doesn't call him out on it. And now we have this situation where objectivism gets a sort of a bad name. And the problem I have with this, like, we have a bunch of people who call themselves objectivists, but simp for Trump all day and night. And,
who not only call themselves objectivists, Michael, some of them teach objectivism, for crying out.
Right. Now, the problem I have is this, right, is that Ian, he says he's an objectivist, anarcho-objectivist. I don't want to get into that right now. I wanted to address what I was going to say. We can address that. Jim Valiant and I are going to make a video. We'll address the whole thing. There's no such thing as an anarcho-objectivist. Let me just put it that way. The two are contradictory concepts.
Correct.
But anyway, so, for 20 something years, I called myself a libertarian, right? Now, broadly speaking, if you were to look up libertarian in a dictionary, it still describes me. Like, my views have not changed. If a libertarian is just somebody who politically thinks that people should be allowed to do whatever they want so long as they don't violate the rights of others, I'm all for that, right? But I quickly found out when I got out of prison that you have all type, like you have anarchists who are just off the wall. You have these people who are just very virulently anti-Jewish, anti-Israel over every, it's just Israel, 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 people who just say disgusting things. And I said, okay, I do not want to be associated with that. Even though by the technical meaning of the term, it still describes me. I think that objectivism, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, describes me. But if it gets to the point where saying I'm an objectivist no longer communicates what I want it to communicate, I'll stop using it. And when you have so many people bastardizing it, it's like, it just seems to be what happens. So anyways, long story short, Jim Valiant and I tomorrow are going to do a demolition job on the whole idea of anarcho-objectivism. That's what I'm getting at. Now, Robert Naser with a great super fucking chat says some people are so open-minded that their brain's fallen out and they don't seem to have noticed. And those who have seem to be proud of it. All right, we'll go with that. Robert said something else earlier that I want to find.
I can see it if you want me to throw it at you.
What?
I can
Robert,
see it.
What's the question? Go ahead.
Given the discussion, is
Yes.
there a real challenge in objectively and justly judging people who have some degree of conscious self-control but are severely brain damaged towards rage and aggression?
I think that we always need to keep context when judging people. And I think that we have to also keep always in mind the purpose of these judgments. The purpose of ethical judgment isn't to be a moralizer who goes around saying, oh, this person's bad and that person's bad and you're going to hell. The purpose of judging is to promote our own interests, right? It's to surround ourselves and judge as good those people who are good so that they can benefit us, and keep away those people who are bad. So if somebody is prone to rage and might hurt me, it doesn't really matter to me whether that person is morally deficient or is just a wild beast. I'm going to judge accordingly to keep that person away from me. Now, whether it's a moral judgment or not is going to depend on the type of factors that Robert talks about. And I will always keep that context, but I also am very loath and, very hesitant to ever give people excuses about because of, predetermined or, predispositions that they might have, because I find from my own experience that usually that's just an excuse, and usually they can be overcome if the person is willing to put forth the effort.
Yeah, so
I hope that's a good answer for you, Robert.
I somewhat agree with you, and I think certainly in when you're judging somebody in a court of law, the condition of their brain and their ability to determine right from wrong, and the type of self-control they have over their actions do need to be considerations when discussing what to do about them. I'll give you a perfect example, Michael. I did a movie called Capote about two killers that murdered a family the Clutter family in Kansas in 1959. Very, very famous story. It was made famous by Truman Capote's in Cold Blood. And I played the character Dick Hickok, Richard Eugene Hickok. What?
I just want to tell you, can I interrupt to tell an interesting story about that book?
Oh, okay, but it's sort of killing the flow. Can
okay, no, you go. I'm sorry.
So,
you're right.
I read the book 6 times. I read a lot of transcripts on Dick Hickok's life, and I did a lot of research on the part before I ended up doing it. Thank you. I am Regina for the €3 super fucking sticker. We love it. And it turned out, Michael, that Dick Hickok was actually a great kid growing up, and all the way into his young adulthood, he was a rather decent human being. He got into a terrible car accident, that literally caused brain damage to the frontal lobes of his brain. So his executive function and decision-making processes were severely damaged. And from that time on, after a long, extensive stay in the hospital, and literally it reformed his face so that he had an asymmetrical face from that time on. He presented antisocial behavior from that time on. So I don't think in today's court of law that my character would have been given the death penalty and would have died as a result. Most especially because he didn't actually commit the murders. He was present while the murders were being committed, but also because his antisocial behavior was the result of brain damage. And there was probably nothing that he could do about it, especially in 1959. There might be some drugs that he could take now that could help him with the antisocial behavior. I'm not sure, but at the time, no. So we certainly have to take the context of the health of the person's brain as a relevant context when determining, how much capacity this person has.
So you played the real life person upon whom the characters in Cold Blood were based?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to check that out now. So what I wanted to tell you, Mark, about, and I agree with you, by the way, like if you think of, I don't know who's heard of Phineas Gage, but he ended up with a rod through his brain, and afterwards he was just a completely different person than who he was before. But the book In Cold Blood. So in Connecticut, there was a horrible murder. I think it was, I want to say 2006, maybe 2007, in Cheshire, Connecticut, where these two guys, they broke in a house, they killed the mother, two daughters, they beat the father up really bad. It was really horrible, the Pettit family. And it subsequently came out that when these guys had done time previously, they had read the book In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. So what ended up happening in prison was they ended up creating these insane standards for getting new books in. They would, like, I ordered a book about the history of Native American tribes and it got rejected. I ordered a book on counseling and practice and it got rejected. So like books were just getting rejected. The reason I'm telling this story is because it just illustrates how incompetent and stupid government is, because the prison is ultimately a government institution. So when they finally came out with this long, long list, hundreds of books on it, of what books now were going to be allowed and what books were not. One of the books that was approved to be in the prison now was In Cold Blood. So they approved the book that led to the whole system to begin with. Wow. And to me, that so encapsulates my entire experience with government.
Utterly incompetent and stupid, and they cause the very problems they pretend to solve. But if you haven't read In Cold Blood, Michael, you should, because it
seen the movie.
Well, you should see Capote. I think Capote is even better than In Cold Blood. But the book itself is a great read because it introduced an entirely new style of writing to the world. It was his history written in a novelesque form, so it really reads like a novel. It's super well done. Capote really knew how to write, and the inspiration for it, Michael, was Dan Fetterman, who ended up writing the movie, and he got nominated for Best Adaptation. It came from a chapter in Capote's biography that suggested after that trial, Capote never wrote anything again, and so it got his artist brain thinking as to why that potentially happened. And so what you see in Capote is very interesting. When I read the script, I didn't think that it would go as far as it did, because to me it showed an artist who was willing to do anything to complete his piece of work, and that even meant letting two men, one potentially innocent of the crime, die in order to get the conclusion he wanted. I want you to see the movie and see if you get that same thing. I didn't think it would go over well because of that. I was wrong, because the movie was so well done and so well acted. Philip Seymour Hoffman got the Academy Award, of course, for it. Bennett Miller was nominated, I think, as Best Director.
You're a very good actor, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I work hard at my craft. I think you'll find the acting superior in that one. By the way, we were doing that at the same time that there was another version of In Cold Blood being shot in Winnipeg, where we were, with Daniel Craig and Sandra Bullock and another star. And I was convinced at that time that because we had Catherine Keener, who was amazing. We had Philip Seymour Hoffman. We had great actors, but I thought ours was going to be, ours was going to fly below the radar while the Daniel Craig one was going to get all the hype. It turned out to be the opposite. I don't think anybody saw the Daniel Craig one with Sandra Bullock, but ours.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I was in the big house when it came out, so it wasn't like I was heading out to the theater.
It's because ours eclipsed it, and I have great behind the scenes stories. And Philip Seymour Hoffman is, I love that guy with a lot of my heart. Even though he had a very different worldview than me, he was an amazing actor, a great spokesman for the craft of acting, an extremely generous and down to earth guy. And that's why I was mad when he died of an overdose and got a lot of shit on social media for saying how pissed I was, as opposed to everybody else saying, it's a disease, it's a disease. No. It was a failure of will. It was a failure of all kinds of things. And he deprived me of his talent. He deprived his children of a father and his wife of a husband and the world of the great art that he could produce. So for me, it was a smashing of something great. It was an obliteration of a value on purpose, in a way, on purpose. So we should talk about addiction sometime in our show.
Self-Made Soul. Sounds great. Maybe because I'll preempt it and talk about it on my show, Everyday Ethics.
You can preempt it, and then we'll bring it on anyway.
We can do it.
So go ahead. You were going to say something before I.
No, that was what I wanted to say. I just said it. It was all about the prison stuff.
Yeah, so Persephone says In Cold Blood is great because it weirdly makes you kind of sympathize with the killers. That's true. I mean, you get a glimpse of their lives and their personalities from behind the scenes, and that's no mistake. I mean, Capote went into their cells and interviewed them, and as according to our movie, may have loved one of the killers, and so you will get a great deal of sympathy for the people's lives that precipitated this crazy act. And you also can tell that, Michael, without the two of them together, without that alchemy, the crime never would have happened. It required the two of them together. And there are just some sorts of criminals that require that. Alone, singularly, they wouldn't do it. But together, the combination of them makes something really toxic and uncontrollable.
So, it's interesting you say that, because the guy that I got arrested with, one of the guys, he was a real good friend of mine. We were maniacs, but most of the friends that I had, even the ones who would commit crimes, had breaks. You know what I mean? Like, they would tell me, like, if I wanted to do something, no, you got to dial it back. Right. This is not good. But with Kenny, who, he ended up getting out of prison and killed himself. But when he and I were together, there were no breaks. Neither of us would ever say to the other, no, we shouldn't do this. So when you have that dynamic, each feeds off the other. Plus, we were both very insecure. And Kenny and I once got into an actual fist fight because neither one of us wanted to back down. We wanted to both impress the girls and show how crazy we were. So when we were together, that dynamic just elevated to just, doing just insane things. So Ian Gilmore says we should have Rucka Ali on when we talk about addiction. I've heard about this guy so much.
Why?
I don't know.
On addiction, I used to do a show with Rucka Ali all the time, but
I don't even know who he is. I've just heard the name over and over again. So yeah, Ian, what's your take on addiction? I think that the idea of addiction as a disease is one of the most harmful concepts there is. Yes. And when they teach that, I'm not talking about when they do this switch that aggravates me. They talk about how the drugs actually change the brain and how alcohol changes the brain. But that's different than saying you're born with a disease, which is what they teach. And I remember sitting.
It's an allergy, Michael. If you read the big book, it's
an allergy. Yes. Yeah, because that's what most things you're allergic to do, make you want to do more. And the way they test for an allergy, I believe, is you inject the allergen into the skin, and then you see
the body rejects it. Body rejects it.
Now, I don't want to get too much into the history of this, but I just want to. We could do that on when we have our discussion. But I'll never forget this as long as I live. Is in prison, I've done all of them: AA, NA, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, aftercare programs. I've been in it, And this guy said one day, I don't understand something. He says, I have a disease of alcoholism. And when I relapse, my family, they all get mad at me and they all turn their backs on me and, they get upset. He said, but if I had cancer and I went into remission and then I relapsed, they wouldn't be upset with me. So why are they upset when I relapse on alcohol? And of course, the answer is because alcohol drinking is a fucking choice, dude. Cancer is not. But because they're telling him all the time in this group, it's a disease, what were they going to say? I think it's a very harmful thing. You and I, really, I think that would be a great discussion.
Well, we'd be in agreement. I mean,
that's fine. We can still discuss it, though.
I feel like I'm unpopular because of what I claimed on social media with respect to Philip Seymour Hoffman, put the ball entirely in Philip Seymour Hoffman's lap. And people were yelling at me saying, this is a disease. You should not be convicting him morally. And I said, it's not a disease. It was a failure of his own will. He was morally lazy and chose the short term high over the long term benefits of being the great artist that he was, and a potential father to his children and a husband to his wife. So to me, it's all short term thinking. It's literally you're taking your will away from yourself deliberately pretending like your will doesn't exist. And they even put in that language in the programs, that you have no will over alcohol. The hell you don't have will over alcohol.
Self-will run riot. You are powerless over addiction.
Look, I used to have a problem with drinking that someone might have called me an alcoholic because I used alcohol as a coping mechanism 10 years ago, Michael. I haven't fucking taken a drop since, and I haven't looked back. Partly because I started to realize the importance of values, right? Like I started to make connections that I wasn't making before, believe it or not. And once I realized that alcohol was not a value to my life, but actually harming me, I've never had the impulse to go back. I've never had the urge or desire to go back because I know it's terrible for me. And I think if people integrated a philosophy like objectivism, they would understand that more, and it would help them know that they have moral agency over the bad thing that they're about to do to their bodies, and stop because they have a longer term value to work for. Thank you, No Names, for the €2. I guess, is that a super fucking chat, Michael, or is that a super?
I don't know what they're called, but it's burnout. He says, and I like this guy or girl. I don't know. You need to tell us what if you're a guy or a girl, so I know, so I don't misrepresent you or whatever, they misgender you. But what was I just going to say now? Even assuming it's a disease, right? That doesn't mean if you've got heart disease, there's steps that you can take. If you've got diabetes, there's steps that you can take. So even if you say, well, drug addiction is a disease, there's still things within your choice that you can do to fight against it. Chandler has been dreaming about you. I don't know, rolling around on a mat. What do we got here?
Oh, which reminds me, I want to poll the audience. So last Thursday, I was rolling in Toronto. I popped a rib. I went to my chiropractor yesterday. He thinks like intercostal muscles in my rib cage are a little bit torn up, but he says I could roll provided I just do my guard game and I don't go beyond that. Do you think I should roll today? Yes or no? Give me the yes or no. This isn't the question for YouTube. This is a question I want answered here. Persephone was a yes. Michael was a no, because Michael doesn't think I'll control myself. He thinks I'll start wrestling more than just, my guard game. I think it's a good time for me to practice guard and techniques from the guard. So let me know what you think. Ian Gilmore is a no. Christopher is a I say no. Okay. Maybe if you can flow roll. Thank you, Kaya. She is a jiu-jitsuka herself, so she knows. I can always flow roll. The question is, can my opponent flow roll? This happened with a black belt, by the way, who was getting super rough because he couldn't do anything to me, and I was about to reverse him. And there was no flowing going on with him. There was flow going on with me. Mark doesn't roll in what is that? What's Shomer Shabbos? Oh, Shomer Shabbos. Okay. I do roll on Shomer Shabbos.
What about Arab Shabbos?
I don't even know what Arab Shabbos is.
I don't know. That's what John Goodman kept saying in the Big Lebowski. Jim Valiant. Jim Valiant says that all the years he worked in drug court, the idea of addiction as a disease was a real impediment to recovery. You know what I just really, we haven't gotten to any of the stories. I sent you all these great stories. We haven't talked about them at all.
Yeah, let's talk about the stories then. We've got a recent article, folks, about the boat attack commander who said he had to kill 2 survivors because they were still trying to smuggle cocaine. Now, let's just talk about this for a second. The boat was obliterated. Everyone else on the boat was dead. These 2 guys are clinging to life by whatever's floating in the Caribbean Ocean. And they're radioing back to the cartels for help. Essentially, get us the fuck out of here because we are going to drown. Which this commander, in his imminent wisdom, decided meant they were still in the fight and trying to
still in the fight
and trying to still bring these drugs to the shores of America. Now, that's not the way I would interpret it. It seems to be a violation of the laws of war, especially laws of war at sea, which I find specious anyway. But it does make sense that if these guys are non-combatants, they have no weapons, they're not trying to hurt anybody, they're just trying to deliver a product from one place to another, and they're floating in the middle of the ocean with a distress signal to someone who might come to rescue them. They are not a threat to the United States of America. Even them bringing over the product, folks, is not a threat to the United States of America. As we've been discussing for the past 10 minutes, this addiction phenomenon, the treatment of addiction as if these people are helpless waifs who have to take the drug like zombified beings with no ability to process right or wrong, is bullshit. It's Michael, the way people look at addiction is part of the reason in which a guy like Trump can label these guys narco-terrorists and murder them on the high seas. Because people think they're fucking helpless in the face of this fentanyl coming onto the shores. You're not. I'm not. I'm totally not. I'm not helpless. Fentanyl comes to the shores. I don't take it. That's what I don't do. And you can do the same. Even if fentanyl makes you feel good, folks, you can do the same.
You too can resist fentanyl. That's today's message from Mark Pellegrino. But yes, everything you said is spot on. The idea, like, we're still at a threat, they're going to get the drugs. Like, just shut up. This is just stupid. You know, on one hand, they say that these people are, they're not, these aren't hostilities. But then when it suits them, we're at war. Just stop. This is just tyranny. There's this guy, the Misfit Patriot. He's online. I don't know if you've seen him, but his brother died of a fentanyl overdose. And that is his justification for, kill him. And I told him this morning, dude, it's not their fault your brother died.
Correct.
I'm sorry. It's just not. It's not the case.
This is a hard pill to swallow for people because the addiction narrative has been going on since, Michael, when was the big book was written? I think in the 30s, wasn't it? 20s or 30s, during the Depression.
Dr. Bob and Bill W.
Yeah, so that book has been in our consciousness for 100 years, and it's basically dictated the way in which, basically a religious conversion book is dictated the way in which we look at addiction now, which is entirely backwards, folks, entirely backwards. Please apply objectivist principles if you have a problem with a certain substance. You need to get a grip on the problem and control yourself cognitively, and you can. And guess what? When you do that, your self-esteem will rise, and your self-esteem will rise the less desire you will have to do that bad thing. Trust me, I know from my own experience in my own life. Anyway, so so Reason Magazine goes on to talk about this, Michael, which is now becoming its policy. I mean, apparently Pete Hegseth might have or may not have given the order to kill everybody.
Says he didn't.
Says he didn't. But Donald Trump, of course, says that this is legitimate. It's legitimate to kill these people on the high seas because they are attempting to kill Americans. Again, this is from the addiction being a disease and human beings not having moral agency. over what types of chemicals they put into their bodies. I'm sorry, you do. If you're an addict out there listening to me, I'm not going to give quarter on this. You do have control over what you put in your body. You may not want to go through the extreme discomfort after you're physically addicted to a thing of dealing with the withdrawal, because it's extremely uncomfortable. But I can tell you this, the only way you change for the better on almost all circumstances is to make yourself extremely uncomfortable. Whether it's cognitive dissonance because you're dealing with ideas in your life that are toxic to you, but you have to overcome them, you are going to be uncomfortable. Whether it's the physical discomfort of exercising to keep yourself fit and healthy for the rest of your life, you have to make yourself physically uncomfortable. If you want to get good at a martial art, you have to put yourself in positions that are incredibly uncomfortable in order to grow. Not only to see that you can survive those uncomfortable places, but that you can thrive within them and actually find ways to win in those uncomfortable circumstances. So I'm not going to give on this to anybody who feels they're addicted to sugar, alcohol, food, whatever your problem seems to be that's driving your life down instead of up. You can get rid of it. You can. It just takes thought and the application of your will.
You're on fire today, brother. That's some good stuff there.
Thank you. Should we go on to another story, or do we have more questions?
I don't know. I'm way out of whack here.
All
right.
I love this daily economy article. First of all, this whenever you send me a daily economy article, I feel like the world is right. You know, as opposed to the Jacobin.
They're good.
They're very good. As opposed to reading the Jacobin, where I feel like I want to kill myself before the end because it's so apocalyptically bad. The Daily Economy says what the economics of envy can't answer. And Michael, it's about wealth redistribution and the popularity of wealth redistribution, politically speaking, and why it's become such an issue with a certain class of people. If you've noticed, Michael, most Americans really don't give a shit about income inequality, and I would be one of those. It doesn't bother me that Jeff Bezos makes $1 trillion a year. I love it. I benefit from everything he does, and he's aspirational for me, right?
I just want you to see this. Do you see Persephone laughing her ass off?
Yes.
Do you know why Persephone's laughing her ass off?
Why?
Because you're a famous Hollywood actor, and you're like, wealth inequality doesn't bother me.
It didn't bother me when I was poor. It didn't bother me when
I know. I'm just talking about perception. It's just funny. Like, I can already see, if I put this, for instance, if Persephone makes this a clip and I post this to TikTok, the comments write themselves on this one. Oh, I'll bet he doesn't mind.
Yeah,
now, you look at me.
They don't know that I was raised by a single mom, you know, in a lower middle class family, and that I worked from the time I was 12, and that, you know, for a very long time I worked 3 or 4 jobs and had to skip around from apartment to apartment to pay rent. That's just the way it goes, man. That's the way it is when you're moving up the economic ladder. Getting rich sometimes ain't pretty, folks. It's hard, it's difficult, it's arduous. In the Industrial Revolution, it was also ugly, and that's what people use to try to capitalize on this thing like inequality. They try to show that the disparities happen because the guy at the top is taking from the guy at the bottom, as if there's a fixed pie of wealth, which there isn't, thank God. So we still live in a semi-free economy, and the semi-free elements of it mean that the person has to create wealth that you want and desire, and they make you richer by the creation of that wealth. Thank you, No Names, for the €5 super fucking
I'm going to post that in 1 second, but this guy, Mr. Deagle, says he wants to know if you remember filming for Grey's Anatomy.
I do. What I really remember about filming for Grey's Anatomy was 2 things. Sandra Oh was one of the most amazing human beings.
Really?
She turned around to me. She's like, "Oh my God, I love you." Okay, first of all, she's Sandra Oh. And I was like, "You do?" She's like, "Oh my God, I love Dexter. It was one of my favorite shows in the world." automatically made me feel very at home. But Katherine Hagel, who has a reputation for not being a very good person, I did a movie with her called Caffeine, way back when in the 90s, before she became a star, as a matter of fact. It was
Really?
it was a movie that was written in the fashion of, let's say, the Office of the BBC, Ricky Gervais. The author of the writer was a Brit, and it required subtle humor. But the director, James Calgrove, God love him, was an American who thought it had the tone of like a My Girl Friday. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen My Girl Friday, but it's a broad comedy. It's a broad comedy in the old sense, with Cary Grant, and it doesn't have that tone. So the movie flops, but I thought I was good in it. In fact, they all thought I was English. They cast English people in it who thought I was from England, and my accent was from Enfield, England, actually. And Katherine Hagel turned around to me while we were going to the set, and I reminded her that we had done Caffeine together. She goes, "Oh yeah, well, you were good in that." Humbly putting herself down in the meantime, which I thought was.
Did you date her ever? Did you ever date Katherine Heigl?
Never dated her, so don't start the rumor. Never dated her.
I'm not. Why would I start the rumor? Megan Ribbon says, "Getting rich ain't always pretty. Just ask Rosie Ginsburg." I will. The next time I ask him, I'm gonna. But your broader point. I don't know if I could be a Hollywood actor. I don't know if I could do it because, well, first of all, I can't act and I'm not good looking enough. But even if I were, like, you're around all these hot women, like I'm asking them all out, and I don't think that would be appropriate.
No, especially not nowadays.
No, they get upset, and In
fact, I'll give you a perfect example of how the Me Too movement has influenced my work. Now, first of all, straight up, I have never, ever used the rehearsal process or acting as a means to getting a date or exploiting a woman, ever. In fact, I've had women I've rehearsed with say, "Do you even like me?" Because they expected me to hit on them during rehearsals, and I never did. All right, because I've always treated this as a very professional thing. In fact, I teach students now in my home. A girl who's an objectivist was introduced to me by another objectivist, Stephen Shub. I said, "I will mentor you, but you have to come with other students. I'm not going to teach a single student, a girl student, alone in my house. You have to come with other people. And when you do that, that's fine." All out of respect for, one, the woman, and two, for my own reputation, because I don't want somebody to say something that's false. I want to have witnesses present. Wait, what was the point of this? I
just asked you. You just wanted to brag about all the women that like you.
No. Oh yeah. So here's the thing. I just did a scene recently that's a scene between me and my secretary, so to speak, and it reads steamy. Like there's an undercurrent of steam, and I know that the person in real life. I know his history in real life, his amorous history in real life. And the director set it up in a very platonic way. And I had the instinct to do something during a take, and I did not act on my instinct, which was to lean in for a kiss before we get interrupted. I didn't do it. I should have gone in for that instinct because the kiss never would have happened because we get interrupted by somebody. But I didn't do it because of this whole thing. I didn't want to feel like I was overstepping boundaries and using the art as a means of overstepping boundaries. And it occurred to me spontaneously in the moment to do it. So I didn't ask for permission in advance. And so that was the last take we did. And I ended up thinking to myself, I should have done another one.
This was a guy? Wait a second. You were playing a gay character?
No, my secretary was a woman. I'm a real life historical character.
Oh, I thought you were saying that it was a guy who had a reputation. Okay. I like numbers, gave $2 on a super fucking question. Wants to know if you can disclose the most famous person you ever dated.
I dated somebody who is a soap opera star. I will not reveal her name.
The most famous person I've ever been in a relationship with is Mark Pellegrino.
The platonic.
It's a heterosexual life partners. Just to close out on this subject, though, about the article, I think that he's right. I don't think most people give a damn about comparing themselves to the rich. Most people, I think, are worried about how they're doing and whether they're eating, whether they have, food on the table or can provide for their children or their spouse. or whatever. And one of the things he made a great point is that whenever they talk about how historically, when there's great disparities in wealth, societies are nearing collapse. And what he said was, yes, but look at the societies you're talking about. You're not talking about market economies. That's something that they always leave out. So I think that's a good point. All right, we got to do the capitalist thought of the day. We got to throw a question out there. We got to do all kinds of things. Capitalist thought of the day for me is going to be quite simple, and that is this: freedom rocks. There seems to be a natural inclination for people. We want to be free. We want to be able to go where we want, do what we want, spend time with whom we want. We do not want the government telling us whom we can and cannot associating with. We ought not want the government telling us whom we can and can't trade with. We ought not want the government telling us what wages we have to pay or what wages we can agree to work for. We ought to be for freedom. That's what capitalism is, and that's what we are here to advocate for. So, Mark, go ahead and figure out a question and ask it.
Guys, do you think that killing people on the high seas is an impeachable offense for the President of the United States? Yes or no? I certainly think we are pushing boundaries in many areas with this president, where we have finally reached the level of impeachability, for sure. So let me know what you think on that. Folks, tomorrow we have Self-Made Soul at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join us. We're going to be talking about what you do when you have values that seem to be equally important to you, but in conflict with each other. What do you do in those circumstances? I think many of you can relate to that. Please also join us on Monday, same bat time, same bat place, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern Time.
Will you be with us?
I will be with you for the Capitalist Corner. I leave on the 11th to work on the 12th. I will be back on the 13th, which means I will be here on the 14th to do a show, whatever show that is. And then I am on hiatus from the
14th is a Sunday, I believe.
Okay, so I am on hiatus at that point, which means I have about 4 or 5 weeks away from the show before I have to go back in January at some point to finish block 3 and then to get into the block 4. So we'll have some time together. My wife will be here. She'll be sort of sleep deprived, so I'm not sure if I'm going to have my station in this room. It might be in another location, so I'm not disturbing her too much. We'll see. I'll do all that. I'll figure all that out when it happens. Until that time, folks, you got plenty of time to rethink your premises. Please do that all the time. Even if your premises are solid, always be questioning them and measuring them against opposing points of view. That's how you grow. That's how you become smarter. And we want smart people with full moral agency, because that's what capitalism is all about. So we'll see you next week, folks. Peace.